Hi, students. I am going to go through your first exam with you. And if you have any questions after the exam, make sure you reach out. Okay, so everyone did good with questions 1, 2. I want to start with number 3. When is it appropriate to sign a 3-digit code? I think everybody got this one incorrect. I went ahead and gave everybody a point for it. So what they had is there not sufficient documentation to report greater specificity. Okay, so a lot of students put if the code is not further subdivided to report with greater specificity, and I was fine with that. Either of those actually are very true statements. Okay, so acute and chronic, everyone did well on that. If separate subterms for acute and chronic are listed at the same indentation level, the alpha index, yes, both codes are assigned. One thing to remember is that you want to put the acute code first and chronic second, just for sequencing. The residual condition is sequenced first, followed by the code for the cause of the late effect. No exceptions, and that is fall. There is exceptions to that rule. Okay, number 6. Ruled out indicates that a diagnosis is still considered to be possible. All right, that is false. If it has that D on the end, it is not possible. That means they actually ruled it out. Now, if they state rule out and they are an inpatient, that is definitely possible. You code it as they do have it. So keep that in mind. Okay, number 8, when inpatient medical record. Sorry about that ring. Anyway, so we have acute nausea, vomiting with acute gastroenteritis. A coder must code both the nausea and vomiting and the gastroenteritis. Keep in mind, okay, these are signs and symptoms of the gastroenteritis. So no, you only code the definite diagnosis. You do not code anything that's integral to the final diagnosis. Late effect, another word, is sequela. Which word below do you not code for an inpatient admission? Ruled out. That means they ruled it out. That patient does not have it. They ruled out an appendicitis. Okay, they do not have it, so you do not code it. Now, if they say probable, possible, or suspected for inpatient, you code them. Okay, no, you should never, ever, even if you know what you're doing, code from just the alpha index. Okay, you always need to check the tabular. All right, I'm going to go down here. We're going to get past some of this. Everyone did okay. If you have any questions on these, ICD-10 CM is classification. Remember, CPT is a nomenclature. ICD-10s are alphanumeric, true. Laterality is 3. Okay, so which of the following codes are not coded to the highest level of specificity? So W11, let's go ahead and check that out. So if I put in WW11, as you can see here, we need a 7th character, so that means it's going to go W11 point XXX and then AD or S. Where the rest of these are code out. So if I look at I-10, I can't go any further. Okay, that's coded out. All right. Okay. Move that. Sorry about that. All right. The matching we're following, or the match the following, everyone did well on those. Let's get into the meat of it here. Osteoporosis due to previous poliomyelitis. All right, so if I went to osteo, and again, you're looking these up in your code book. So I have osteoporosis due to previous this is a good example. We're going to have 2 separate codes. So I'm going to have the M80 1.0. Okay. And then I need to find out my second code. At that point, remember, late effect, previous. If you go to late effect, it tells you to look up sequela. So then I want to go to sequela poliomyelitis, and that's going to give you give you the B91 code. All right. Diabetic retinitis, that one was pretty good. No issues here. Okay, on this one here, 24, acute appendicitis, right? Ruled out, was ruled out. So that means they don't have the acute appendicitis. I only want to code the Meckel's diverticulum that was found at surgery. Okay, because that is ruled out. They don't have it. I shouldn't have two codes. I should only have one. Okay, so this one here, we have probable acute peptic ulcer. You can see here, it's stated inpatient, where I can code anything probable. But I have acute peptic ulcer since nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain are integral to that peptic ulcer. I'm only coding acute peptic ulcer. Okay, we have meningitis due to salmonella infection. So I kind of did it. You can actually find this code a couple of different ways. I went to meningitis bacterial. If you go down to salmonella infection, you're going to find the A02.21. All right, this one here is a good example. Acute and chronic oophouritis. One thing to remember, both these codes are at the same indentation level. I'm going to go ahead and pull them up just so you can see. My system's a little slow. It's going to tell me if I spell something wrong too. Okay, so I have oophouritis. See how acute and chronic, they're at the same indentation level, so I code them both. If acute was here in parentheses behind the keyword, then I would only code the chronic. But they're both at the same indentation level, so I code them both. Here we have two codes again, one for the cystitis and one for the hematuria due to the Pseudomonas infection. So we have two codes on that one. Okay, biliary calculus with cholecystitis. This one's a little tricky. Okay, so with this one here, if I go to cholecystitis, okay, with calculus, stones, and right here the bile duct, so I have calculus, bile duct with cholecystitis. This is going to cover everything. So when I look this up, again, you don't have the access to the book, but you will shortly. Exciting news, it's coming later this week. If I click on that, or if you go to it in your book, as you can see, it's K80.40. Okay, so everything's covered. I got my calculus and the bile duct with the cholecystitis. The biggest thing here for 30, we need a couple different things here. We need to code the underweight code itself, which is going to be the R63.6, and then we need to code the BMI of 17, which is the Z code. Okay, no real issues on streptococcal tonsillitis. Okay, with the foot pain, especially in the morning, plantar fasciitis diagnosis. Here, once again, we have to remember that the foot pain is integral to the plantar fasciitis. So I do not code the foot pain, I only code the fasciitis. All right, we have pericarditis due to an old TB infection. This is going to be a sequela. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and look this up. Okay, so I'm looking at my first code, my pericarditis. Then I'm going to go down to constrictive, which is I31.1. Once again, make sure you check it in your tabular. There isn't any other characters that we need for this. Now my next one is due to an old TB infection. As I stated, late effect. I'm going to go to sequela, and then I'm going to just go down for the subterm tuberculosis, right? And we know that it's a specified organ because it's going to be the lining of the heart, around the heart. So that's why I am going to go with B90.8. That was kind of tricky. Okay, so question 34, we have acute renal failure due to previous viral encephalitis. Going to be kind of the same route that we just did up here. I am going to go to failure renal, all right, and it is acute. So it's going to take me down to N17.9. So I went ahead, my first main term, sequela. Then I'm going to go down to my subterm, encephalitis. Then I'm going to look at viral, which is going to be the B94.1. Question 35, I have hydronephrosis due to prostatic hyperplasia. So with this one, I went ahead and looked for my main term, hyperplasia. Then I went down to the prostate, which is just your basic N40.0. Let's pull this over. Okay, we have benign prostatic hyperplasia without urinary tract and symptoms. Okay, so everything that it includes. So now I need to go, let me go ahead and move this. I need to also have the hydronephrosis. If I look here, it's just the very first hydronephrosis, N13.30. So that one's pretty explanatory. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. The next big one a lot of students had problems with is the hemiplegia due to an old cardiovascular accident. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type up sequela. Okay, so once you're in sequela, I went to disease. And some students, here's disease, cerebral vascular. So I went ahead and a lot of students had I69.359. And to be honest, this wording is pretty much incorrect. So for those of you fretting over that, my apologies. When this got typed out, it should have said cerebral. So that's why I went ahead and accepted anything that was I69.3, which is totally fine. So good job on catching that. So if you had, let's just go ahead, I69.3. That still is the same thing in this cerebral. So yes, the wording on that does need to get changed. And again, I feel bad for that. Overall, this was a really good exam. I'm very happy how students did. One thing I want you to do, if you have any questions, let me know. And the other thing is, just let me know something you learned from this video, and I will add a point to your exam score. But you got to send me an email and let me know. Thanks, everyone.